favorite stories in the Bible is found in Acts chapter 3. And it really speaks to what and I want to lay the groundwork for this with this incident that happens in Acts chapter 3, starting with verse 1. One day Peter and John were going up to the temple at a time of prayer, and it was at 3 in the afternoon. And a man who was crippled from birth was being carried to the temple gate called Beautiful, where he was put every day to beg from those going into the temple courts. And when he saw Peter and John about to enter, he asked them for money. Peter looked straight at him, as did John, and Peter said, "Look at us." So the man gave them his attention, expecting to get something from them. Then Peter said, "Silver and gold I do not have, but what I have I give to you. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, walk." Taking him up by the right hand, he helped him up, and instantly the man's feet and ankles became strong, and he jumped to his feet, and he began to walk. Then he went with him to the temple courts, walking and jumping and praising God. Now, the thing that I find so fascinating about this story, this incident, is that we're like that beggar. And we have certain limitations in our lives. Things haven't gone right, and we're crippled, and we're hurt, and we're frustrated. And sometimes we're angry, and things just don't happen the way that happens for other people. And life seems so unfair. And we just do the only thing that we think we can do to try to survive. And that's really how we live our lives, just trying to survive. And that's what this man was doing. He was a beggar. Sat on the side of the street all day long just asking for money. That's how he survived. That's how he could feed himself. He was just living to survive. And Peter and John come along, and he sees him, and what does he do? He begs for money. And they see him. Now, they're Baptists. They don't have any money. So they say, well, look at us, because we don't have any silver and gold, but what we do have, we give to you. And really what he was saying was, we give it to you freely. In the name of Jesus, rise up and walk. Now, the beautiful thing about this story is that this guy, this is such a picture of how God responds so far beyond our requests. This guy didn't get what he was asking for. He didn't get what he was looking for. He didn't have what he understood he needed. He didn't get what he understood he needed. The fact is that God responds to you beyond your requests. But often we don't see it because we're too focused on our own realities. And let me do a little parenthetical thing here, and I realize this is always dangerous, but it's important for us to understand this. When you read this story about how Peter and John responded to this beggar, compare it to how Jesus dealt with beggars. When there were blind people and crippled people on the side of the street and they were begging. Notice how Jesus handled it. They, in every one of those incidents that I've seen in the Bible, when Jesus would go up and approach the person who was begging on the side of the street, Jesus would say, "What do you need?" Or "What do you want me to do?" Now, the interesting thing is that the beggars, the crippled or the blind, they said, "Give me money," to Jesus. No, they didn't. They never asked Jesus for money. Have you noticed that? They did ask, here they asked Peter and John for money, but none of the beggars or cripples or the blind, none of those people that, when we see in the Bible anyway, none of them ever asked Jesus for money. They said, "We need to be healed." Now let me tell you something. We are the beggars. We are those people who have limitations, have injuries, have hurts. We are blind and crippled. And we are just trying to survive from day to day to day to day. And the most powerful thing that we can do when we find ourselves in those conditions is to ask God, not for money, but for healing. It's the same thing for our church. It's the same thing for us as First Baptist Church of Raytown. The answer for us, when we're on the side of the road, we've been wounded and hurt and we're begging and we desperately need something. We think the answer is money. Let's get more money, then we can solve our problems. That's not the answer. The answer is healing. We need healing. And the way we get healing is the individuals themselves get healed. The way we are healed as a church is that the folks in the church get healed spiritually. And we need to learn this lesson. The lesson is not to get what we think we need, but to get healed by God. To let God do what He wants to do, to restore us, and to accomplish what He wants to accomplish in our lives.
Only by your blood, and it's only through your mercy.